we are honored to bring in a guest speaker for you today. His name is James Warren. James is the founder and CEO of Share More Stories, a human experience insights company. The company's primary offering is the SEEQ platform, which helps organizations and brands uncover the emotional drivers behind employee and customer experiences. James is a researcher, strategist, writer, and facilitator who blends storytelling, AI, and insights to help companies better understand themselves, their customers, and their communities. With nearly 30 years of experience in marketing insights, strategy, and innovation, he is passionate about the intersections of humanity, technology, brands, communities, and culture. An active community leader, he volunteers on several boards. He studied economics and literature at Princeton and creative writing at Columbia. Originally from New York, James now calls Richmond home. Let's welcome James Warren.
All right. I just want to say this is the winning table right here. We got two champs. That's great. How's everybody doing this evening? Good. This is a beautiful room to see, and I am grateful for the chance to just share a few remarks with you and a couple of stories, because that is in the name of the company, so it would be a little weird if I didn't have some stories to tell you. I took a look at your mission and the theme of tonight, and I was really, really inspired by what I saw. What you're doing here is fantastic. What you're doing with and for each other is fantastic. And I also want to give a big round of applause to Virginia Credit Union for their support. It always takes partners to do meaningful work. So thank you for that kind introduction, Cherry. I appreciate it. Before we begin, I want you to make note in your head, on your phone, wherever, on 3 words: believe, start, and collaborate. Believe, start, and collaborate. We're going to come back to those. I want you to consider this. If your theme is the standard of excellence, in order to achieve excellence, you might have to experience some challenges along the way. And you might even have to seek out some challenges to achieve the kind of things that you want to achieve. So what I'm going to talk about tonight is this idea of seeking out challenge in order to achieve the excellence that you want to have. We're going to explore this through stories, of course, because as I said, stories are uniquely powerful in their ability to bring out our human experiences. That's what I do for a living. That's my day job, is understanding people's experiences through stories. They're also great for connecting. So when you hear something in somebody else's story, you often say, yeah, I can relate to that. I get that. I understand that. So it gives you a chance to form an almost immediate human connection. But stories are also great for learning because they have lots of lessons. And you think about all the things that you've learned in your life so far, there's a good chance that if you either learned them or they really sunk in when you heard them in association with a story. A story doesn't have to be a whole lot, it doesn't have to be long, it doesn't have to be fancy or extensive, but it's that idea of recounting what happened, why it matters, and what you learned from it. And one of the most significant aspects of stories is the way that they reveal our journeys. So you're on a journey. This picture that is up behind me is a picture in Arizona, in Tucson, and it's the mountains. And I went there at a moment where life was challenging. But when I went there and I took that journey and I opened myself up to sort of reflect on what's going on in my life, what can I do better, how can I be a better husband, father, business person, and partner, I came away from that experience sort of revitalized, clear-eyed, and charged up. And so journeys have a way of doing that for us, and stories are great for unpacking the journeys. So much of transformation, right? You're in college. How many of you are in your first year here? Okay, so maybe about a third, 25% of the room. You started a journey. How many of you are seniors? You're going to graduate this academic year. Okay, so a few. So you're almost near the end of this first journey. Probably getting excited, maybe a little nervous. But the journey is a metaphor for life. So we're going to talk about the journeys of challenge and the journey of transformation. Now, there's a lot of things that we go through that can be challenging, right? It's the denial sometimes of something that you really, really wanted, and that's hard to deal with. It could be pain and suffering, physical, emotional, or otherwise. It could be anguish and grief. Maybe you lost something or someone, or even you just lost a dream. You know, that kind of grief can be challenging, can be hard to cope with. So let's back up a little bit and ask a question. Why is challenge even necessary? Why do people suffer? Why do people struggle? And I would tell you that there's a few things that happen. One is we experience things that we see in life and we're like, this isn't fair. Or this is even awful. This is bad. There's no denying it. This person shouldn't be going through it. I shouldn't be going through it. We also see things, though, that are, you know, if you change the context, it starts to become almost beneficial. You're working out, you're lifting weights. You know by now that the process of exercising your muscles is tearing your muscle fibers. And it's the process of tearing and healing over and over again that builds your muscle. You're doing that voluntarily because you want to get better. You're experiencing that challenge so you can get stronger. Compare that to, hey, I suffered an injury. That doesn't feel so good. I didn't intend to suffer an injury, but it's still challenging. So sometimes the challenges are things you want, and sometimes challenges are the things you don't want. But either way, you have a choice when you're confronted with that challenging situation. What's that choice? It's, do I face this and embrace this, or do I try to avoid it and run away? And what I would offer for you tonight is when you are faced with a challenge, your first and best choice is to say, how can I face this? Face it doesn't mean control it. It doesn't mean let it overwhelm me, but it means I'm going to deal with it. Running away from it almost always just delays the inevitable. Whatever that problem is, it usually only gets bigger with time if we don't face it or deal with it. So the challenging situations you might face in life, whether they're by choice or by circumstances beyond your control, your first and best option is to say, how can I deal with this? How can I face it and work through it versus run away from it? Some of the things that I want to kind of unpack are just three sort of brief stories about challenges that will give you a little bit of a sense of my life and my experiences, but also maybe you'll see something in there that you can relate to. And what I want you to think about as you go through that is the process of growth. When you face a difficult situation, a challenge, when you are struggling, when you are suffering, when you feel things are not fair, there's always the potential for growth in that process. Just like the exercise and working out we were just describing. And the growth could be physical, it could be emotional, mental, it could be spiritual. The growth is a choice that you can make in terms of how you navigate that situation. And there's also a couple of benefits that sometimes come, and we don't see these in the process, we see these after. When I go through a challenging situation, a couple of things happen. One, I develop empathy for other people who are going through difficult situations. Two, I develop some kind of gratitude that I made it through. And three, I get prepared for whatever life might bring me next. So the challenge is an opportunity to say, how do I develop more empathy, more gratitude, and get ready for what's next? So 3 quick stories. The first one is about rowing, crew team. How many of y'all familiar with rowing, sport of crew rowing? Hands up. Okay. So when I was a freshman at Princeton, I was walking by orientation week. I'm walking by the gym, and right outside on the gym is this big table with what I thought at the time were just the coolest sweatshirts I had seen anywhere. I was like, oh, these are dope. Like, you know, Princeton heavyweight crew. I was like, yeah, I want to get one of those. And the guy at the table says, well, you got to work for it. And I said, well, what does that mean? He said, come down to the boathouse tomorrow and you'll find out. So I said, okay, bet. Next day, went to the boathouse. Half of the team were people who had rowed in high school, and half of the team were people like me who had never rowed, and they were just grabbing off the sidewalk. Like, you look tall. You didn't make the football team. You didn't make the basketball team. Why don't you come out for the rowing team? And so I said, all right, well, let me give this a shot. And rowing turned out to be one of the most profound experiences of my life. I had a chance to do some things that were competitive in high school, but not a lot because I went to school in the city and my school was small. And there wasn't a lot of things that I could do. Play basketball a little bit, but Basketball wasn't really my first love. I wanted to play football, and there was no football team at my school. So I get to Princeton, and this rowing opportunity shows up. And I mean, if you've never been involved in or even seen that sport, it is, to me, the epitome of teamwork. But to get to teamwork is a lot of challenge. It's a lot of struggle. I mean, I'm only 2 months into college now, and we're doing 10 miles of running. And I'm like, I mean, the first time he said, okay, you're gonna run 5 miles of hills. By the end of that 5th mile, I was done. And he said, all right, now y'all gonna run 3 miles and back. I quit that day. But then I went home, and I thought about it, and I came back. And I said, there's something about this experience that I really, really like, and I'm already starting to miss. And it was the teamwork, it was the collaboration. So one day, I started getting pretty good, and even better than some of the folks who had been rowing for 4 or 5 years. And my coach was amazing. He was a really, really tough coach, but he was himself a member of the US national team. And he went on to eventually coach the team to its first ever US gold medals. So I had an amazing coach, right? So one day we had just finished rowing and we're standing on the dock, and he looks at me and goes, James, he goes, that was a good practice today. I said, yeah, that was a good practice. He said, you're getting pretty good at this. I said, yeah, I'm getting pretty good at this. He says, you got a lot of potential. You could be a star in this sport. You could go to the Olympics. So I said, yeah, I could go to the Olympics. He said, that's your potential. I said, yeah, I got potential. And then he said, potential just means you haven't done it yet, like mic drop moment. And some of my teammates started laughing, snickering. But I thought about that. I've never forgotten that lesson. That potential just means I haven't done it yet. So potential is a promise, but I got to go make that promise come true. It's my job to deliver on the potential. It's your job to deliver on the potential you have. Because potential might get you in the door, but the hard work keeps you in the room. So what will you do with your potential? That was the first thing that I learned. Potential and the value of teamwork. The second thing was, I may not look like it today, but not too long ago, I was running 10Ks and a half marathon. And the first 10K, I did look. I would say I was even heavier than I am today, and I was definitely in worse shape than I am today. I had been exercising on and off for years. Some of you know that's a struggle. Maybe you don't yet because you're still young, but you get a little older, and no matter how fit you were in high school or college, you got to start prioritizing it, and you got to make space and time and even money for it. And I wasn't doing that. And so I could see myself falling apart, started worrying about my health. And I finally said, I got to do something. And I knew that competition motivated me, or the race motivated me. So I said, let me go ahead and try to run. I didn't run very well when I was younger because I always hurt my knees, but all of a sudden I could run and my knees didn't hurt. So I said, well, let's try this. So I started training for the 10K. I went over to Lucille Brown Middle School, which is right in my neighborhood. And the first day, a little dirt track around the football field. I pretty much just walked it, Tried to run the last lap, and it was embarrassing. There were a few other people out there. I kind of just said, let me just go ahead and get in my car. Even getting back up that long hill, I was huffing and puffing. And I looked at myself, I said, I look like a cartoon character. I'm wearing sweatpants that are too small. My socks and shoes and sweatpants don't match. I look like that guy that you would be making fun of. But you know what I did? I did that first day. I started again. I started exercising again. Started running again. That first 10K, my wife had already been running for a few years. She had trained for that 10K. So we get to the race day, and I'm thinking she's gonna go run her race because she trained for her race, and she was in much better shape than I was. We get to the start of the race, and she goes, I'm gonna run with you. And I was like, what? I said, well, I'm gonna run walk. I'm gonna take it every other block. And she said, no, but I'll do that with you. The value of teamwork, collaboration, somebody in your corner, somebody who's willing sometimes to put their goals on hold to help you achieve your goal. That's what she did for me that day. I was blown away. And if you ever go back and look in 2018, those little race photos, and you see me at the finish line, a blubbering mess, you'll know why. Because I felt emotional when I crossed that finish line. Partly because I did it, and partly because I was really grateful that my wife put that goal ahead of hers that day. So running showed me that sometimes starting over or starting again is the hard thing, but it's the good thing, and there's rewards in that process. Last story. starting this company, Share More Stories, I am blessed to have had a lot of mentors in my life's journey. I didn't appreciate all the mentors I had when I had them. I didn't appreciate all the mentors I had when I had them. One of the mentors I had in my corporate career in Altria was a man named Greg Cummings. He passed away a couple of years ago, but he retired as the Senior Vice President of Manufacturing at Altria. And he had been a mentor of mine from a distance while I was at Altria. And when I left Altria and started my company, he took me under his wing. He started introducing me to people that I needed to know, started trying to help me, give me some guidance on how to build this company. Because I had been managing big brands, billion-dollar brands and budgets, billion-dollar revenue, books of revenue. And all that corporate learning, a lot of it I had to put on the shelf to start a business because entrepreneurship is a very, very different journey. And so I'd go over to his house, we'd sit at his dining room table, he would tell me all the things that were wrong with my plan, and then he'd say, but here's who we're gonna go talk to, or here's who you're gonna go meet. Here's who I want you to get some perspective from. And one of the people that he told me I needed to meet was Ken Johnson, who is the CEO of JMI. And that meeting changed my life because Ken is I crack jokes with him that we have a very complicated relationship in the sense that he's a mentor, he's a business partner, he's a friend. Sometimes he acts a little bit like my father, and he's only 10 years older than me. But I love that man to death because he believed in me. And he said something that drove me nuts at first. He said, I believe in you more than you believe in yourself. And I was like, what the? You can't believe in me more than I believe in myself. And he said, I do. And I hated when he said that. But then I realized why I hated it so much was because it was true. I had lost faith. I had lost belief in myself. I had lost the vision, lost the plot. But he was still by my side saying, I see what you want to build. I believe in what you want to build. I'm going to help you build it. And so that's an example of somebody coming again alongside you who believes in you sometimes when you can't believe in yourself. And you're going to need those people in your life. Friends, family, team members, mentors. You're going to need people who believe in you even when you don't believe in yourself. And it seems complicated, like how could that possibly be? How could I not believe in myself? It happens. The difference is whether or not somebody's there to help you see what you can't see right now. And so when I think about those three stories, I want to leave you with these three sort of ideas, these lessons. The first is the power of belief, which we just touched on, right? Believing in yourself. What others see in me, what I see in myself, and also trusting the vision of the future that I had, the dream. If you have a dream today for your future, hold on to that. Believe in that. Share it with a few people you can trust so they can point you back to your vision and your dream when your faith is lagging. That way it's on record. Somebody be like, look, I already know you told me this is what you're going to be 10 years from now, so let's get back on track. And instead of your self-doubt consuming you, somebody reminds you of your dream, reminds you of what to believe in. So that's the first thing is belief. Start doing the work. Whether you have to start now or start over now, the start is the biggest part of the process. We always talk about how you finish. It's not how you start, it's how you finish. For the purposes of tonight's talk, it's how you start. Okay? How you start matters. Because the better your start, the easier your finish is going to be. If you screw up the start, you got to make up some ground. Now, the best folks in the world know how to make up ground, but also give yourself the chance of the best possible start. And if you failed, the next possible start is now, then now, and then now. So you are blessed because you have a continuous stream of opportunities to start over. No matter how many times you fall or fail or struggle or face a challenge, all you have to do is say, start over. It's like your games. Start over. And give yourself the chance at success that you want, that you dream of, that you're passionate about. So those are the things that I wanted to share with you. As you think about a standard of excellence, I'm inviting you to embrace the challenges that come your way, not to run from them. Whether it's a challenge that you're seeking out because you said, this is hard, but I want to do it because it's going to help me achieve my goals, or whether you're saying, I didn't ask for this. I didn't want this. Life dealt me a cruel hand. Either way, you have a choice to make when the challenge comes to you. You can embrace it And you can build from that, you can collaborate, you can believe, and you can start that next step of your journey. Or you can turn away from it, and I guarantee you it will wait for you to come back around. So the challenges that come our way are really blessings in disguise. They're opportunities for growth, and they will enable you to achieve the standard of excellence that you seek. Thank you.